Listen, Rihanna, when you die, God is taking me to my future. You want to kill me. Shut the up, okay? Shut the up. Yeah, she's a witch. She's a witch. I'm a watchman. She's a witch. Get that stupid girl out of here. Okay? They can't do this. They can't do this. What about my hands? What about these fingers over here? What about these 3 fingers? What about it? What about it? No, you're not here. You're rebuked. And even if you're here, there are many in this realm. There are many in this realm, and you are rebuked, and Jesus is the king, and you're just kicking and screaming on your way out and perishing. It's embarrassing.
But how would you say this line? Lord de j'adore.
Lord de j'adore.
Okay. Lord de j'adore. Is it too much when I say
Okay. Yes. Okay.
On a quiet Sunday afternoon in Beverly Hills, a little girl was probably playing. Maybe 2 of them. Maybe all 3. Because Rihanna's children were home that day, March 8th, 2026, when the shots rang out. 10 rounds. Fire from across the street. Punching through the front gate. 1 bullet going clean through the wall of the house. And somewhere inside, the woman who had fought her entire life to build something safe, something hers, was hearing the sound she never should have had to hear again. The sound of violence finding her, coming for her, at home. Because here is what you need to understand before we go any further. This was not the first time the world tried to break Robin Rihanna Fenty. Not even close. This woman came from nothing, survived things that would have ended most people, built a global empire from scratch, and create a family she had fought hard to protect. And on an ordinary Sunday afternoon, someone drove over 1,000 miles, parked outside her gate, and opened fire. The suspect was a 35-year-old woman named Ivana Lizette Ortiz. She had an AR-15 in the front seat, a blonde wig on her head, a 30-round magazine in the trunk, and for months before that day, she had been posting videos online, rambling, disturbing, increasingly threatening videos, in which Rihanna's name came up again and again. Nobody connected the dots in time. Today, we're going to walk through both of these women's lives. Because true crime is never just about what happened. It's about everything that led there. And in this case, you have 2 women, the same age, both with turbulent pasts, both ambitious, both survivors in their own way, whose lives collided on a street in California in one of the most shocking celebrity targeted attacks in recent memory. Before we go any further, if you're new here, you're at Mystora Crimes. This channel exists because real stories deserve to be told with real respect. Not for clicks, not for shock value, for truth. Every time you subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell icon, you're making sure we can keep telling stories like this one. Stories about real people, real families, real pain. If that matters to you, take 5 seconds right now. It genuinely means everything to this channel and to the people whose stories we carry. Now, let's start where Rihanna's story actually starts. Not on a stage, not on a red carpet, not in a boardroom, in a small house in Barbados, with a father who was breaking apart, and a little girl who had no idea yet that her voice was going to change the world, but who already knew at a very young age what it felt like when the place that was supposed to be safest wasn't safe at all. Robin Rihanna Fenty was born on February 20th, 1988, in St. Michael, Barbados. She was the eldest of 3 children. Her mother, Monica, was an accountant. Her father, Ronald, was a warehouse supervisor, and he was also, for much of her childhood, addicted to crack cocaine. She has spoken about what that was like, the instability, the unpredictability. Growing up in a house where you never quite knew what version of your parent you were going to get. She developed migraine so severe that doctors initially thought she had a brain tumor. The migraine stopped when her parents separated. She was 14 years old. But even in that environment, maybe because of that environment, something in her refused to shrink. She found music. She started singing. And at 15, she performed at a school pageant and caught the attention of a music producer named Evan Rogers, who was vacationing in Barbados with his wife. Rogers later said that the moment Rihanna walked into the room, the other girls in her group simply ceased to exist. That quality, the ability to command a space, to make people feel like she was the only person in it, that was never manufactured. It was always there. By 2005, a demo tape had made its way to Jay-Z, who had just become president of Def Jam Recordings. Rihanna flew to New York. She performed in a room with some of the most powerful people in the music industry. Jay-Z didn't let her leave without a deal. She was 17 years old. What followed was one of the most remarkable careers in modern music history. Hit after hit. Reinvention after reinvention. But what the charts don't capture is what she was carrying while all of that was happening. In 2009, the night before the Grammy Awards, her boyfriend, one of the most famous musicians on the planet, beat her severely enough that photographs of her injuries circulated globally. She was 20 years old. The world watched. Opinions were divided in ways that were deeply ugly, and she had to keep working, keep showing up, keep being Rihanna, even while privately processing one of the most traumatic experiences of her life. She has said since that she put her guard up so hard after that she didn't want anyone to see her cry or feel sorry for her, and still she kept building. Fenty Beauty launched in 2017 and became a billion-dollar brand. Savage X Fenty followed. The Clara Lionel Foundation. In 2021, the government of Barbados named her a national hero of her country. She fell in love with rapper A$AP Rocky. They had children, 3 of them. She built a home in Beverly Hills and filled it with people she loved. And on March 8, 2026, she was sitting in an Airstream trailer on her property with her partner when the shooting started. She has survived so much. But surviving shouldn't have to be the story every time. Now let's talk about Ivana Ortiz. And I want to be intentional about how we do this, because it would be easy and lazy to paint her purely as a monster. The reality, as it almost always is more complicated than that. Ivana Lizette Ortiz was also 35 years old at the time of her arrest. She was born in Illinois and eventually made her way to Florida. She earned a degree from the University of Central Florida in 2011. She became a licensed speech-language pathologist, someone trained to help people, including children, find their voices. She ran her own clinic in Orlando. She had also, as a teenager, been a beauty queen. Records and social media posts show she held the title Miss Teen Illinois Latina Princess in 2006. There's a photo of her beside a row of trophies, proud and poised. She ran a YouTube channel called Praying Woman's Journal, where she posted Bible studies and faith reflections. From the outside, a professional woman, a woman of faith, a former pageant contestant trying to make her way in the world. But the records tell a different story underneath that surface. A bankruptcy filing when she was 23, a domestic violence arrest in 2023 made while she was already on probation, cell phone video of a confrontation with her ex-husband when he came to pick up their children, threatening text messages, a prior involuntary psychiatric hold under Florida's Baker Act, a law that allows someone to be held for up to 72 hours if they're considered a danger to themselves or others. She acknowledged the hold in sworn court testimony, but disputed the reasons for it, and then the loss that appears to have fractured everything. A Florida judge awarded her ex-husband full physical custody of their child. All contact was severed. No phone calls, no texts, no video, no third-party communication. A judge looked at the full picture of her behavior and decided she could not be trusted around her own child. Her ex-husband's attorney described her in a way that has stuck with me. He said she was articulate and very believable, that if you sat down with her, she seemed completely reasonable. But, he said, she does bizarre things. That gap between how someone presents and what they're actually doing is one of the most dangerous spaces in human behavior, because it makes it easy for the people around them to rationalize, to explain away, to wait and see. By January 2026, she had started posting videos mentioning Rihanna by name, not admiringly, not obsessively in a fan sense. She claimed Rihanna was jealous of her, that Rihanna was the devil, that Rihanna was trying to steal from her and wanted her dead. 2 women the same age, 2 very different trajectories, and one of them driving toward the other. Here is something that doesn't get said enough in coverage of this case. When Ivana Ortiz posted those videos about Rihanna, tagging her Instagram directly on February 23rd, uploading content accusing her of having AIDS, rambling about divine missions and persecution. Those posts were public. Anyone could see them. And yet somehow, between the social media platforms that host that content, the family court system that had already flagged her as a risk, and the security apparatus around one of the most famous women in the world, the connection was never made. That is not a small failure. That is a systemic one. On the morning of March 8th, Ivana Ortiz got into a white Tesla and drove from Florida to Beverly Hills, more than 1,000 miles. She had an AR-15 in the front seat, a blonde wig, a 30-round magazine in the trunk. She parked across the street from Rihanna's home at approximately 1:15 in the afternoon. She put on the wig, and she fired 10 rounds at the front gate. Inside the house, Rihanna was in an Airstream camping trailer on the property. Her children were home. Staff members were inside. A neighboring property was also struck. In total, 10 people were placed in danger that afternoon, including 3 children. Police were called immediately. But here is where the story takes a turn that speaks to both the power of modern surveillance and the question of why that same surveillance couldn't prevent what had just happened. Automatic license plate recognition systems, the kind embedded throughout Los Angeles, had already captured the Tesla. Within an hour, officers located the car in Sherman Oaks, about 12 miles away. Ivana Ortiz was behind the wheel. She was wearing the wig. The rifle and spent casings were in the front seat. She was arrested peacefully. She said nothing to police. She invoked her right to counsel and went silent. Now here's the detail I keep returning to. The wig. She brought a disguise. She planned enough to think about not being recognized. And in criminal law, that matters enormously because it speaks to premeditation. It says that whatever was driving her, delusion, rage, a mission she believed was divinely ordered, part of her brain was still operating in the real world, still thinking about consequences, still thinking about getting away. District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced 14 felony charges: attempted murder, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, shooting at inhabited dwellings, 10 named victims, including Rihanna, her partner, her 3 children, and staff members. The prosecutor assigned to lead the case is Alexander Bott, the same attorney who convicted rapper Tory Lanez for shooting Megan Thee Stallion. The arraignment was scheduled for March 25th. Ortiz faces life in prison if convicted. And somewhere across the city, Rihanna, a woman who has already survived more than most people ever will, was now being told that someone had come specifically for her children, for her home. A source close to Rihanna said after the shooting that she doesn't understand why her family was targeted, that she was freaking out, that even with a professional security team, she now had to sit with the terrifying reality that it wasn't enough. And I think that's where this story lives. Not in the charges, not even in the psychology of the suspect, but in that feeling, the one Rihanna knows better than most, the feeling of having built something real, something yours, something safe, and then having that safety shattered. Think about who Rihanna is as a person, not as an icon. She is a woman who grew up watching a parent fall apart, who learned young that home can be dangerous, who was beaten by someone she loved in front of the entire world and had to keep going anyway, who poured every piece of herself into building something different, a career, a company, a family, a home, and who was, on an ordinary Sunday, reminded that fame does not come with immunity from violence. She has been through so much that it would be easy to assume she's unbreakable. But she's a mother first, and a mother who hears shots fired near her children is not an icon in that moment. She is just a woman, terrified, like any of us would be. That's the story I keep coming back to, not the charges, not even the suspect, the cost of all of this, to her children, who are growing up in a world where this is possible, to every person who works in that house, who is also listed as a victim in those 14 counts, and whose names we will probably never know. And then there's the question the system has to answer. Ivana Ortiz was not hidden. She was not operating in silence. She was on YouTube. She was on Instagram. She had been in Florida family courts. She had been Baker acted. She had lost custody of her child. There were records, hearings, posts, and filings, a paper trail of a person in serious crisis, moving toward danger. And still, on a Sunday afternoon, she was able to park outside Rihanna's gate and fire 10 rounds. So here is what I want to leave you with. What does it take? What does it take for the systems around someone? The courts, the platforms, the threat assessment infrastructure around public figures, to actually connect those dots before someone gets hurt. How many posts? How many hearings? How many warning signs? And for Rihanna herself, a woman who has rebuilt herself so many times already, what does it mean to have to do it again? To have to explain to 3 small children why there are bullet holes in the gate of their home? Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you believe this case reveals a deeper failure in how we handle celebrity stalking? What do you think drove Yvonne Ortiz? Delusion, grief, rage, or all 3? And what does justice look like here, not just legally, but for Rihanna and her family? This story is still unfolding. We'll be back when it does. If this moved you, subscribe to Mystora Crimes, hit that bell, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Real stories, real people. That's all we do here. See you on the next one.